Hi, I'm Jorge Anthony Negrete, but you can call me Anthony. And today we'll be discussing the slope-intercept form of linear equations. So the slope-intercept form, what is it? Well, actually, the slope-intercept form is pretty simple. It's just y is equal to mx plus b, where m is equal to the slope of your line and b is equal to the y-intercept. So that's basically what it is. The slope-intercept form is very, very useful. It's one of the most common ways that you'll be expressing linear equations, which are just equations of a line in algebra. So let's take a look at what this is actually telling you. So if you try to look at it on a graph, it starts getting pretty clear as to what the advantages of using the slope-intercept form are. So if we just look at any line on a xy axis, where this is your y-axis and this is your x-axis, we can look at certain points on that line. So let's say we're given a point right here, where your line crosses the y-axis. This is considered the y-intercept. Okay, and then if we wanted to, we can easily just look at any other point on this graph, on this line. Okay, let's just call these out. Okay, this will be at y is equal to 2, and this will be at x is equal to 3, y is equal to 3. Okay, this is just for purposes of explaining how to use the slope-intercept form. Okay, so now that we know what the y-intercept is, since we can clearly see it on this graph, we now need to know, how do we find our slope? What can we do to be able to find our slope and express our line as an equation? So it's normally known as the rise over the run, where the rise is how far up or down your line goes from point to point, and your run is how far to the right your line goes from point to point. So in this specific case, we'll be able to write it out. Well, in any case, you'll be able to find your slope using this simple formula. So let's see, your rise over your run, which is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is important, that you note that no matter which points you choose on your graph, you will always be able to get the same slope, because this slope and this line correspond to one another. So if we wanted to find the specific slope of any line, we just need to choose 2 points on that line. So these are our 2 points in this specific case. We can write them out right here. It would be 0, comma, 2. And it would be 3, comma, 3. So you can decide however you want to choose it. You can choose this to be 0.1 and this to be 0.2, or vice versa. This can be your 0.2 and this can be your 0.1. But just for the purposes of this example, I will explain it to you with this being our point 1, where 0, comma 2 is the corresponding coordinates, and this being our point 2, where 3, comma 3 is the corresponding coordinates to point 2. So this, in terms of our variables in our equation, would be x1, y1, and this would be x2, y2. So in order to find our slope, we can just write it all out. M is equal to y2, which in this case is 3, minus y1, which in this case is 2, over x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is 0. So if we just do the math, it ends up being 1 over 3. And this, ooh, this is our slope of our equation. So just given this line on this graph and these two specific points, we can easily write out our equation in slope-intercept form. So now that we know our slope is 1/3, we can go back and look at what our form is, which is y is equal to mx plus b, where b is our y-intercept, which we can see through this illustration where the line crosses the y-axis. Another way to figure out where the y-axis, where the y-intercept is where the x is equal to 0, because that corresponds to where the line intercepts the y-axis. So if we wanted to, and if we were told to express this line in slope-intercept form, we could easily just write it out as y is equal to m, which in this case is 1/3, x plus b, which is our y-intercept, which is the value at the point where x is equal to 0 and your line intercepts the y-axis. So in this case, it would be 2. So this would be our formula. So this is how we can find an equation given a line on a graph. But there's actually other ways that you can use the point slope formula. We could be given, let's say your question gives you what is b, which in this case we'll call it 4. And then it also gives you your m, which in this case we'll just call it 2. Okay, given these two variables, they might ask you, okay, express your linear equation in slope-intercept form and draw the corresponding line on an xy axis. So although this might seem pretty difficult at first, if you just look at it conceptually, that they only gave us two things and are asking for a graph and our equation, it's actually very simple, because as we remember, our equation, our form of our linear equation is simply y is equal to mx plus b. So if we're given this information, we know that our line is simply y is equal to m, which is our slope, in this case 2x plus b, which in this case would be 4. And there you go. We simply wrote it out already. We wrote our equation, our linear equation, in slope-intercept form. This is only part of the question, though. It also asks us to draw a graph or draw our line on an XY axis. So this is pretty simple. We just draw that, it's straight enough. We draw our y-axis and our x-axis. And then we can simply look at what our equation gives us. So there are multiple ways that you can graph a line on an XY axis. One way that I would assume you have seen before is to simply pick points and then start plugging them in. So we'll pick points for your X, and then you'll get a corresponding Y by going through and solving the equation over and over again, and then plotting these points out. But because we're given our equation or our factors in terms of our y-intercept and our slope, and we've already found our equation in our slope-intercept form, we can simply start plotting what we have given with our given information. So if you look at it, B, we already have 1 point on our line, which would be B, our y-intercept. So we can simply start going up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 up right there. This point is on our line, and this point would be 0, 4, which is our y-intercept, also known as B. Then we can look at our slope. So if we remember what our slope is, it is rise over run. So if this makes it, and to make it a little more simple, we can just write it in fraction form, which is 2 over 1. And if this is our rise, and this is our run, that would mean that for every 1 that we go to the right, we would go up 2. So if we wanted to, we can simply go up 2 and then to the right 1. And this is where our second point on our graph would be. If we went over 1 and up 2, this point would be 1, 6. And because it's a line, we can keep going on and finding more and more points. But in reality, this is all we need. We just need 2 lines on our graph so that we can graph our. Oh. We just need 2 points on our line so we can graph our line. And there it is. It's pretty simple, and in all honesty, this starts getting better if you do more and more examples. So if given the opportunity to teach you, I will run through multiple examples with you so that we can start understanding the concepts in different ways. So that given any type of information, as little as it can be, we can start figuring out how can we understand what we're told to do and how can we do it. So this is our lesson for today, and thank you for your time. And if you have any more questions, please let me know so that we can run through any part of this lesson again so that I can help you understand it. Thank you.